hopefully tonight. We've just had ours before the live stream started, so all shall be well. Tonight's guest is one I've been looking forward to for quite some time, and it's kind of weird because a friend said to me the other day, is all stage hypnotists have God complexes? And I said, well, no, we've all got a lot of egos. Tonight's guest does not have a God complex, but he has a direct line to the man himself. Yes, tonight's guest is the Reverend William Mitchell. Not only is he a stage hypnotist, not only does he run the Heartland Hypnosis Conference, not only does he train in hypnosis, but he is also a Christian minister. So this is going to be fascinating to see how he brings the world of the stage to his church, or the church to his stage. So I'm going to play this graphic on the other side. If you have any questions, get them ready. And tonight's going to be a good one. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, which side? It's going to be this side, it appears. Please make some noise, bang your keyboards, and get ready for the one and only William Mitchell. Here he is. And we have sound as well. William, how are you?
Doing very well. It's a beautiful day here in Illinois. I'm in Springfield, Illinois.
I mean, from England, we only kind of categorize America into two different camps, and that's a warm bit and a cold bit. Are you in a warm bit or a cold bit?
Well, we're right in the middle. We're about 3 hours south of Chicago, and we're almost 100 miles north of St. Louis, Missouri. So if that gives you an idea.
Nice. So Jeff Benning says hello.
Yeah, Jeff's a great friend.
We've got a couple of people. Natasha says hello, and Alana Jennings says I'm late. Brilliant. So yeah, as we said in the introduction there, you are a Christian minister as well as a stage hypnotist. I mean, which came first?
Oh, I was a young man called in the ministry, went to college for it, went to seminary for it, was ordained, had churches, and had several large churches, and got into hypnosis because I always did a lot of speaking on psychological topics outside the church, and literally answered an ad in USA Today looking for professional speakers. When I called them, they said, oh, we do weight loss seminars and we use hypnosis. Wow. So I called one of the psychologists, went to my church, we went to breakfast, and I told him what I was asking about, and he goes, oh, hypnosis is great. He says, I use hypnosis in my practice all the time. It's not a cure-all, but don't be afraid of hypnosis. So I went out, got trained by this company to do weight loss hypnosis, and I saw what you see in stage shows immediately. I did my first show in Laredo, Texas, right on the border of Mexico, and 60 brave souls did not know I'd never hypnotized anybody. They came in, and 5 minutes into this script, they were like, I mean, heads between their knees, arms hanging down the floor, and I'm going, good script. But I began to see right away in those seminars the hypnotic phenomenon. So then when I learned to do stage later, I understood that this was really all hypnosis is hypnosis, whether it's on stage or in a session or whether you're, it's all hypnosis.
Yeah, and nothing beats that first feeling when those first people go under, and you have that moment inside yourself where you kind of go, oh, it actually works.
It works. Oh yeah.
It works, yeah. It makes life a bit easier. So was there like the Catholic Church in the UK had some issues with hypnosis? Was there any conflicts between your church and hypnosis?
Well, and in the United States, we have the whole range of religious denominations. You have very, very conservative, sometimes what they call fundamentalist churches. Then you have more mainline churches. And then you have a few really avant-garde, more liberal churches. And I came more from the mainline. I came more from right in the middle. And so we weren't afraid of hypnosis in the sense of we knew it was a psychological technique. It had been used by psychologists. It had been studied at places like Stanford and Harvard. And so, and I was, I have a master of divinity. And so I'm an educated person. And so I was not afraid of hypnosis. I have to admit, when I first heard that this company wanted me to learn how to do hypnosis, I was thinking, that's kind of hokey. I was thinking of the kind of the stage shows and stuff like that. But when I saw how much it helped people, I said, I've got to get more training. And so I've spent the last, about 20, I started in 1997. I spent the last 23, 24 years just continually taking more and more trainings because it is a fascinating field.
it's always evolving, and that's the weird thing. Language patterns now versus language patterns 10 years ago. You know, we're learning how to do more with it as such.
Yes.
I have to ask, like the whole Benny Hill, the evangelist side of religion. For me, I see that very much. Very similar to stage hypnosis techniques working in conjunction with that. What are your thoughts?
That's a great question. And actually, almost every time I teach a certification class, that question comes up in one form or another. And my answer, if you give me just a moment, I always tell them the intention is very important. What the intention is. The Catholic Church, a couple thousand years ago, they got it right on this one issue. During the persecutions by the Romans, a lot of times the priest, to save their own skin, would denounce Christ. But then when the persecutions ended, they'd come back and want to be the priest again. Well, those are called apostate priests, see? And a lot of the lay people who suffered at the hands of the persecutions were very resentful that they were serving the Eucharist or the communion. And so they would appeal to the Pope, and the Pope, I think, got it right. The Pope responded, the holiness or lack of holiness of the priest has nothing to do with the holiness of the Eucharist, the communion. It has all to do with what the intention of the believer is. And so what I tell people is, if somebody goes to Benny Hinn to be healed and they get healed, that was religion. Is the physiology similar? Is the expectancy of psychology similar? Absolutely. I mean, that thing about taking your coat off and throwing it at people, we've all seen stage hypnotists do it too. But when somebody goes to a stage show for entertainment purposes, their intention is different. And so, because the truth is, you talk about like the old apostate priest, there isn't any priest out there that's perfect anyway. Find me a priest without sin. I want to meet that guy. Yeah. I think there was only one. So the fact is, the intention of the person, if they come for religious purposes, it's a moment of faith. If they come for hypnosis and some sort of healing, it's a moment of healing. If they come for a stage show, it's entertainment. But is the psychology the same? Is the physiology the same? I would say yes, yes, and yes.
So,
for example, in the pulpit, where do people always look? They look up.
Yes.
We all know about that in inductions, right?
Yes.
I can't tell you how many sermons I've preached, and you can hear a pin drop. Are they in trance? Well, maybe a little bit.
Yeah. And I always love the crossover between the two, which is why a good speaker from the pulpit can have a profound effect on the audience / flock. So yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Well, one thing, Grant, when I started doing hypnosis, I had very little training, but I was getting immediately very dramatic results.
Yeah.
Well, I look back now and I realize all that I brought with me from the church that's very hypnotic, transferred, tone of voice, pacing, the way you present yourself, the fact that you gain rapport and trust, all these things.
Yeah.
And because I didn't go to those seminars to say, hey, I'm a minister, but that way of being still came across.
Yeah.
Came across. So I don't know if that helps or not, but.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, it is a fascinating kind of crossover, because, like I said, I've always believed that the two kind of go hand in hand. So yeah, I saw and this is going off on a tangent somewhere. There was an American show I saw a couple of years ago of a guy that performs exorcisms.
Oh, yeah.
And he's kind of got the hands together like so, and then he had the Bible going round them and kind of saying that they couldn't separate the hands. And I'm like, but that's
right.
So yeah. So, what was your first experience of a stage hypnosis show? What was the first show you saw?
When I was in college, I was a freshman, and I was dating a nice little young lady who was also a freshman, and I was very religious. And we had a stage hypnotist come to our little college, and she wanted to volunteer so bad, but I was a little concerned, and I encouraged her not to volunteer. After the show, she thanked me. because it was a very dirty show.
Yeah.
And she would have exposed things about herself that maybe not the rest of us needed to know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so my initial impression was, oh, all the stage shows are dirty. So when I first got into hypnosis, I didn't think that was for me.
Yeah.
But I saw a guy do a clean show, and I went, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
So I got his card and I called him the next day.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I like about the way you market your show is you market it as a clean show,
Right.
which I suppose as a minister, you couldn't really market it any other way.
Right.
But I suppose you could kind of repent or get them to repent for their sins at the same time.
Yeah.
But I believe doing clean shows makes you a better performer. You're not reliant on shocking material.
Right.
In order to get a reaction from an audience. And in the UK, we had it for years. And there's nothing wrong in guys that work that particular market, but it got a reputation of being exactly that. You know, you will do stuff that you will regret and be embarrassed about later on,
Right.
rather than kind of a profound experience as such. So, yeah, I went super clean about 10, 15 years ago. And it was the best thing I ever did. Since doing that, the quality of bookings has gone up, because if you can be funny when it's clean, you can be funny anytime. And I've turned up at venues where they've expected an adult show and got a clean show and not realized it wasn't adult. So yeah. You do a program for schools as well?
A lot of schools, colleges. I'm doing a school assembly Saturday here in Jefferson City, Missouri, and it'll be a social distancing show. And I did a social distancing show at a college last Tuesday, and went real well. And so love the schools. I get a lot of calls, just like you do, because they definitely don't want the dirty.
Yeah.
Like, for example, a lot of corporations will use me when they probably wouldn't use some hypnotists, because they're just a little afraid. They're a little afraid. And I know I've gotten some religious institutions that definitely wouldn't have normally used a hypnotist, because Catholic University of America is in Washington, D.C. And back in 2018, they asked me to do their welcome week. And the reason they called me, I'd never had anything to do with them, is the year before they brought in a stage hypnotist, and he says, oh, my show's clean. Well, his definition of clean in the Catholic churches were very different.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh.
You'd have loved that show, though, Grant. I went in. I like to go in early for college, and I'll do the rapid inductions real quick. Anybody wants to, be in the show, and I'll put them in real quick, and I'll get them up on stage, and I give them the post-hypnotic suggestion. I'll say sleep, and then they automatically just drop. Well, I had really quickly trained a couple of the volunteers of the faculty staff that were there. So I said, a bunch of people probably go under in the crowd. That happens quite often, especially at college shows.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I'm going to show off. I picked my light hand, heavy hand people who really were already in hypnosis because their eyes were just fluttering like mad. I get them up on stage. And then I left about 8 chairs for the people in the audience who go in the audience. So I had like 16 up there and then 8 extra chairs. And I thought, oh, I'm going to show off. So I just said, sleep. That was the entire induction. 8 in the audience went under.
Nice.
And everybody, of course, on stage did. And we did the whole show. That was the induction. Just sleep.
Wow. Nice.
That was it. And
Nice.
the only person I lost, they were dancing, and a person ran into him. I could have put him right back into hypnosis, but I chose not to, because he was one of the ones from the crowd.
Yeah.
So, of course, I did the mic thing and went over and said, well, how did you get up here? And, of course, he has no idea. And the crowd was loving him, so.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So I always talk about the challenging shows, and we've all had them, and they're the ones where we learn stuff. And sometimes it's a way of, if you're on a run of shows and everything's going brilliantly, sometimes that challenging show can help put your feet on the ground, sort of thing. What was your most challenging show so far?
I had two really challenging shows. This one show called me. They were going to do a show in Fort Worth, Texas at the Stockyards. And it was the Indian, like East Asian Indian New Year. And so I was glad to accept the invitation, but I said, we really need to talk about the cultural differences, because, what kind of music, what kind of, and so the person that I was working with kept saying, oh, we're very Americanized. We're very Americanized. We're very Americanized. Well, that person was, but when I got there, the crowd wasn't.
Wow.
And I had a whole group of students with me. The same day I did the Fort Worth district. It's like we have National Honor Societies in our schools. I did the National Honor Society convention for that part of Texas, and of course that's like shooting fish in a barrel. I mean, all the kids are just great and everything. So the students think I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. Then we go down for these Indians, and I mean, I am struggling. I am perspiring. I'm doing everything I know to do, and nothing's working. Nothing's working. But luckily, before I started the show, I talked to the DJ, and he was a very intelligent young Pakistani gentleman. And I turned to him, and I finally, in desperation, I said, "Could you give me some Bollywood?" Well, then the show took off, and we just kept doing Bollywood skits. Anything that had to do with dancing, we were, and they came up afterwards. They said, "Oh, we want to apologize. We thought the crowd would be." I said, "Hey," but one of my students, his wife was a professional entertainer, and he said, "You're a pro." He says most people would have quit 10 minutes before you did. Because I was just dying up there. Nothing's working. Nothing.
I know a lot of guys do hypnosis and mentalism or magic routines.
Yeah.
And I also, I don't have the fingers or the dexterity for magic. But the amount of times that if I would have had a magic show in my back pocket, the amount of times the show that I would have given up on and fallen back on it. So it's by not having something to fall back on. Sometimes you've just got to keep going and find that show in there. Brilliant.
You want to hear the other funny one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I get this call, and it's from real close to a place called Keokuk, Iowa, which is the middle of nowhere. But anyway, I had that Christmas season, I had done several corporate shows in that area. So I get this call, and they say, "Oh, we've seen your show, and we want you to come do our biker rally." And I'm going, "You want me to come do your biker rally?" "Oh, yes. Oh, yes." And I said, "You've seen my show?" "Oh, yes, we loved your show." Well, I had actually been in that area, so I thought, well, maybe they've seen my show. So I go, and it is a real biker rally. I had never been to a real bike. I mean, people walk around half naked, all this stuff. And here's what was really funny. No one wanted to volunteer because the hypnotist the year before had been so dirty, even the bikers wouldn't volunteer. So I wound up getting two people who were good subjects. He was hilarious verbally.
Yeah.
She was hilarious physically. I'm not sure on the IQ scale where she was, but she was not high. So I really did two different, and he wouldn't move. He didn't move, but he would talk. He was hypnotized. And so I really did two shows. I would have her do stuff, I'd have him do stuff, but they weren't the same stuff. And we got through the show, and they complimented me, but they did say on the way out after they gave me the check, I don't think it was your show we saw.
Well, there you go. I must admit, there's the Outlaws motorcycle group. I did a show for them once, and and that's lovely guys. In case they're watching, lovely guys. But I'm not be going back. Richard Cole says hello, and he says, "How is high school shows different when you're doing them socially distanced?"
Well, what I do is I usually use one line when I'm doing shows before the pandemic, but now I put them in two rows, and they're 6 to 7 feet apart.
Yeah,
the chairs, and then I'll have two rows. So, like, you'll have 6 to 7 feet between these two chairs, and I put the second row chair in the gap.
Yeah.
So everybody can see. Yeah. So they're still 6 or 7 feet apart. I mean, so we're doing the distancing. Usually they have the mask on. Which is okay. And I usually wear a face shield, one of those plastic shields.
Yeah.
And that way I can put the microphone under the shield, and it's easier for them to hear me. And then a lot of times I'll take an assistant, and the assistant will have a separate mic that I don't speak into. That way there's no exposure. We think it's okay because when they're speaking through the mask, if very much is getting through, it's not going at the mic because they're putting the mic right up to up here. So, and really really the same skits all work. For example, I love Hot and Cold, where they're hot and they're cold. Everybody does that. And but see, in the normal shows on the cold, they'd be snuggling up against each other,
Yeah.
So you just change it a little bit. So you just change it, and they're shivering by themselves. Or like good smell, bad smell. Instead of smelling the person next to them, I have them smell their feet.
Yeah, it's a good way to work around.
Yeah, because they're, and one foot smells great and the other foot smells horrible. And it's still funny. Because when I tell my students, what's funny about hypnosis is they're hypnotized.
Yes.
It's the hypnotic phenomenon that's so funny.
Yeah.
I really don't have to be funny. They're funny.
Yeah. One of the things, and this is going to make me sound really stupid now, but I've done a couple of shows during lockdown, and I did find it quite a struggle. On one of them, it's realizing that on those face screens, that not only is there a film on the outside of it, there's a film on the inside of it.
Yes.
And it's literally the first one. I'm like, it's clear, you can see through, but it's just a bit misty. And Alan, who does my sound, kind of went, yeah, there's another film on the inside, and peeled it off. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Now I can see. Alana Jennings says, this guy is so funny. Your laugh is ace. And for Lana, who watches quite often, to have a compliment off Lana, that's a great
That's great. That. Well, Lana, I laugh during the shows too. They crack me up.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever done the skit? I did this at the college show last week. The skit where you turn them into a superhero, but they have a weird, quirky superpower that the other superheroes make fun of. And this one big football player, he's a big college football player. I go, what's your crime-fighting, strange, quirky power? And he goes, I eat the criminals. And I just lost it. And I go, what do the other superheroes call you? And he goes, Fat Man.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
I actually got at that same college, and I did that skit several years ago. I don't do it every year, but this little bitty girl had gone into hypnosis out in the crowd, and one of my assistants brought her up. And I thought, well, she's a little freshman, obviously. I said, let's make her a star, so because like at that show, I'd have like 35 people on stage under, see. So, but I'm going to pick a few, So I go over her, and she's a little bitty thing. And so I said, now, what's your superpower? She goes, I'm a disgusting woman, and you're disgusting. And then she hauled off, and she started way back here, and she hit me as hard as she could right in the face with an open hand.
Wow.
Now, she was little, and I'm not a real tall guy, but I'm a big guy. And so it didn't really hurt me, but I was just so shocked. I was just so shocked. And the crowd is going nuts.
Yeah, the crowd loved it.
They loved it. And so, anyway, it's funny, though, in the politically correct world, after the show was over, the guy from the college came up and says, I have to ask you this. Do you want to press charges?
Wow.
I said, friend, she doesn't even remember doing it.
Yeah. Well, we've got a question here. It's quite an interesting question, actually. Are any of your parishioners, if that's the right word, skeptical of religion because you dabble in hypnosis?
I think you have to educate people, and I think luckily I've been in the New Testament, in the Sermon on the Mount, which is Matthew chapter. It's actually 3 chapters, but chapter 7, Jesus talks about how do you identify false prophets, and he says you'll know them by their fruits. And so what I say to people is, now what are the fruits of the Spirit? And there's like 9, and love, joy, peace, kindness, etc., etc. And I'll say, now what do I do with hypnosis? Well, I help people lose weight. Is that bad? No, everybody likes that. Do I help people stop smoking? No, that's a real good thing. And I help people with fears, irrational fears. Go through the list, and then I say, now what kind of shows do I do? I do clean shows. I help kids stay off the roads and not drinking so they don't get killed in the middle of the night, which actually happened at my senior graduation.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. One of our classmates died. So I'm very passionate about that. And I always thank the parents who organize things. I said, you don't know, you will never know what it's like. I mean, it's a terrible thing. So you're keeping those kids off the highway. And so I tell them, I said, those are all good things. I can't believe that a loving God would condemn that, because there are no side effects. Yeah. When it's over, they feel great. Matter of fact, I was going to tell you, I get a lot of clients for my practice for my stage shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially now with Zoom.
I don't know if in America it's the same, but here in the UK, for a few years, there was a lot of stigma between hypnotherapists and stage hypnotists,
Right.
whereas the therapist didn't like the stage. And I always kind of say a good, clean stage show done well only promotes hypnotherapy and helps the hypnotherapy practice. And not only that, I believe most hypnotherapists should at least learn stage hypnosis just to bring some of those elements into their therapy room. To add a bit of showmanship and some razzle dazzle will help them with their therapy practice. So,
you and I, Grant, are on the same page. Same page. Because I do a whole talk on your clients want the wow, the magic, the hypnotic phenomenon.
Yeah.
Because they've seen the stage shows. That's the number one way people are exposed to hypnosis. They've seen the stage show and they'll say, "Can you do that with me?" And I tell all my students, everything we're teaching in our certification class, if you do the depth testing, everything we do in depth testing is what's going on in a stage show.
Yeah.
Now, you may not be an entertainer, you may not have that personality, but every hypnotic phenomenon done in a stage show you can produce in your therapy session.
Absolutely. So I've just turn my sound down a little bit. I was getting an echo.
Well, I may be talking too loud. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I get excited.
It's one of the joys about going live. I've kind of swapped between one microphone to another microphone while still trying to run the stream as well. So Jeff Bennett says, shows fill up my clinic and my colleges in places I perform.
And let me just say a plug for Jeff Bennett. He is a very qualified, well-trained hypnotherapist. And I've used him to do stage shows here in the United States, and he's always gotten great reviews.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully we should be able to get him on as a guest at some point in the near future. As well as performing stage hypnosis, having a therapy practice, and being a minister, you also have the Heartland Hypnosis Conference.
Yes, yes.
So tell us about that.
Well, I got in hypnosis, and about 2002, I went to my first hypnosis conference. It was the National Guild of Hypnotists out east, and then I started going to a lot of the conferences. And every time I went to a conference, I learned something. I met great people. But there were things about the conferences that I thought could be improved. And so finally, in 2015, I thought, I'm going to just do a conference, a little regional conference, that would be the conference I'd want to go to. Because here's what happened. They'd have Grant, William Mitchell, and name somebody else that you all want to hear speaking the same hour. Yeah. That used to drive me nuts. So what I did is I came up with the track program. So all the clinical hypnotherapy teaching is in one track. So if all you care about is clinical hypnosis, you can sit in that same room for 3 days, never leave. If all you care about stage hypnosis, you can sit in that room. And by the way, the first year we did Heartland, more and more people kept gravitating toward the stage hypnosis room because they're funny. They're fun. And what happened was all kinds of hypnotherapists at that first conference, they changed their tune on stage hypnosis because we had, of course, stage hypnosis at the conference too. We had actually a stage hypnosis show, and I had several people who had a very dim view of stage hypnosis change.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know if you've ever asked any psychologists. You'd be amazed how many psychologists who do hypnosis have never even seen a stage show.
Yeah.
Never even seen one.
So many people have opinions on stage hypnosis without, like you said, without actually seeing a modern stage hypnosis show.
Because of my ministry background, I can take a lot of classes with the psychologists. And I won't name this psychologist right here now. You would know the name though. He's very well known, writes a lot of books, and I took several advanced trainings with him. He's wonderful. He's brilliant. He's a genius. But he has made some. Well, he actually in one of his books he talks about stage hypnosis. And on one of these internet forums, I think it was hypnothoughts.com, on one of these forums, somebody quoted him. And I went on there and I said, I know him. I've taken class to him. He's a genius. He's brilliant. He's an incredible clinician, but he knows nothing about stage hypnosis. And interestingly, in the next edition of that same book, he changed the whole stage hypnosis part. Really? I think he read that post.
Yeah. So another question here as well. Do you ever do shows for your church?
I have, yes. Fundraisers. Yeah. Like you invite the public, they pay to come. And actually, it was at a church that I changed a very important part of my show. We were doing this fundraiser, and one of our church ladies, she taught Sunday school and everything, wonderful lady. Her sister came, and at that time, her sister did not belong to our church. She later did join, but she came, and she didn't know me. And so she volunteered, and she was just a fantastic subject, just incredible. Well, after the show was over, I used to give people amnesia. They wouldn't remember what they did. Well, this Sunday school teacher was just being terrible to her sister who'd been in my show, telling her she'd taken her clothes off and done all kinds of inappropriate things. And now she and her family thought, in kind of a weird way, that was really funny, but she was traumatizing this poor woman. So of course I went over, put her back in hypnosis and brought her out and said, you remember everything. And so now at the end of my show, I do give them hypnosis, I do give them hypnotic amnesia while they're in the room.
Yeah.
And then the moment they step through the door, across the threshold, they remember everything. And I tell everybody, the funniest place to be is just outside the door when they walk through the door.
Absolutely. And it's really nice by doing it that way as well, because you get the phenomena of the amnesia. But like you said, when they get that realization, when they cross that threshold and they realize everything, it's something special. So Jeff just says as well, it's a great community at the conference as well. So he's singing your praises there.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
We've got a short clip from one of your shows. I picked this one just because it's a lot of hypnotists show kind of a really young audience, especially with the post-prom and the school shows. This is these guys are an older audience, and it's a really great skit as well. So I'm going to play this now, and then we'll come back straight after.
Sure. Hello, my name is Dr. William Mitchell, and I want to give your group an unforgettable entertainment experience. That is why companies bring me in. They want something different. And your attendees at your event become the stars of the show. They're responding to hypnotic suggestions.
Anybody, push anybody, hurt anybody. You're all on national TV, right? Now when I count from 5 down to 1, you'll sit back in your chair, open your eyes, and you're from Tupelo, Mississippi, and I'm going to ask you about those aliens last night. And you're going to prove to me that you're a double wide. You got the biggest double wide. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my goodness. Who saw the aliens last night?
I saw it, and it was my double wide.
Come here, man. I want to interview you for NBC News. Now there's the camera. Now tell the people out there in TV land what happened.
It was too my double wide. Yeah, it was mine, and my animals are all gone.
Your animals are gone? And your animals are gone? What?
I just can't even tell you what happened. I mean, these big, spacious.
Lying, sir.
She's lying?
Yes, sir. She is.
Well, let me see what she has to say, and I'll get to you next, all right? Now tell me. Now what happened?
These big ships. Oh, they were huge. They had aliens. These big old long things of light.
Oh my goodness. Now, sir, come here. Let me talk to you, sir. You all got it, didn't you?
Had big eyes.
No.
Had a long nose.
Long nose?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
How long?
Little bitty beady eyes. Yeah.
Did they take your animals?
Yes, they did. They took my dog and my goat.
Your goat? Oh my goodness. What do you think they're doing?
I don't know.
Don't want to think about it, do you? No, I don't want to think about it.
Brilliant.
That show is sometimes, though, with adults, hard to keep that clean sometimes.
Yes. So Lana Jennings says she loved how everyone says sir.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. Which in the southern states is very common, and they're supposed to be from Mississippi in the skit. It's funny, you'll get people of other nationalities going to the most convincing southern accents you've ever heard.
Brilliant. Like I say, they were slightly older in that audience, or subjects on stage. I mean, how do you find different age groups, different nationalities for going into hypnosis? I mean, we're all supposed to look at every subject as being the best subject to go into hypnosis. But from my experience, the older someone gets, the more challenging it is to get them into that right frame of mind. What do you think?
I think there are a lot of social dynamics and why people volunteer at stage shows. And I think age can be an inhibitor because, especially at a corporate party, you have the added issue of how are people going to react to them socially after the show, especially if they work together, things like that. And so I think one of the greatest skills for a stage hypnotist is identifying before the show who the best subjects are. And I think, as you know, there are many ways to do that. But when you get these people up there that are great subjects, there's ways to, keep them closer to each other and kind of have that become infectious. And somehow some people that weren't that great become pretty good.
Yeah. I must admit, I find sometimes that, the cannon fodder, you don't tend to use them too much because, you don't think they're brilliant, but then they can turn into brilliant subjects.
Right.
So it's always important to keep calibrating them as such rather than just writing them off.
One thing I get a little criticism about, Grant, some hypnotists criticize me for taking maybe a little longer with adults on the induction, especially the college stage hypnotists, because they're used to just saying sleep and everybody falls down, But I did the Illinois State Fair here in 2019, and we had a couple of great stage hypnotists working with me that had a little trouble the first couple of shows because they were used to until they're deeply hypnotized.
Yeah.
So I really spend time making sure I get them as deep as possible. And I don't think the audience minds, because if you're doing a more of a slow, progressive relaxation induction, it's actually more believable in some ways than the rap is, because they're going more and more, more and more, and pretty soon, and they find it more believable they really were hypnotized because they see it being incremental and slow.
Yeah, they see the process.
Yes.
I found that audiences are more interested in the psychology of hypnosis these days, and an induction where you just tap someone and they fall on the floor looks very dramatic.
Yes.
But like you said, that whole, when they're watching and they can go, oh, look at Mavis, look, she's starting to blink, she's starting to go, she's going. They're involved, and it adds drama to the show as well. So absolutely,
it does.
Yeah.
I always tell the people I work with, the induction is a big part of the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can use it different ways. When I do rapids, I always throw in with the rapid a post-hypnotic suggestion that I bring them immediately back up, so the audience knows, because of the post, they're not faking.
Yeah.
Like you've seen the red pan, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, for example, just something that makes them prove that they're not just faking.
Yeah. Brilliant. We always talk about the challenging shows. Give us an example of one of your best shows, whether it be a prestigious stage or a prestigious client, one where, when you kind of get those nerves again from doing that type of show.
Well, as soon as you said nerves, now I thought of the right show. I was doing all the high school shows I could do. I was doing all the corporate shows I could do because I'm part-time. I do about 50 to 70 shows a year, and that's part-time. So the problem was my church, they don't mind me doing hypnosis. Matter of fact, they're sort of proud because like I hypnotize people to quit smoking and stuff. A lot of them, they find out I'm doing it, and they want to. They'll tell their friends, and they help them. We help them quit and that kind of thing. So the church has always been real proud of that. But the church was real clear with me from the very beginning. But we want you here on Sunday.
Yeah.
Well, that limited how far I could travel for these corporate shows and get back. There's just a limit how far you can go and get back in time for Sunday, because the show's usually on Saturday night.
Yeah.
So I thought, college shows are during the week. But I hadn't done a lot of college shows, and I wasn't really in that market. So I called one of the famous stage hypnotists here in the United States, who's a good guy, Dr. Jim Wan.
Yeah.
And he said, go to APCA. There's NACA, National Association of Campus Activities, and there's APCA, American, but whatever it is, it's campus activities. And he says, you could probably get in APCA easier, it's smaller, and then do a showcase. Well, really, I'm just a minister from a small part of the world, and I go down to APCA, and I'm supposed to do the big nighttime showcase and everything. And all of a sudden, I see all these college performers, and these people are talented performers. I'm just a preacher that can hypnotize people. I mean, that's what I am. And they're doing all their things, and I'm going, oh my gosh. I mean, it was really intimidating, and I'm not as young as some of the performers and things like that. And so it was a big event. I mean, there were a lot of people there, and I thought, man. And so the pressure kind of got to me a little bit, but luckily, it was almost the perfect show.
Brilliant.
I mean, every single person was hypnotized. All were deeply. Matter of fact, several of the young ladies swore afterwards we had not done the show, and that was not a suggestion from me. They swore we had not done the show. Get back up here. We haven't done the show. They're fighting with me because their amnesia was so complete.
Nice.
And matter of fact, the sound guys, and Jeff Bennett will understand that because he's a sound guy too. The sound guys came to me after they said, out of all the college shows they'd seen, that was the best show.
Brilliant.
But I don't believe it was, but they were being real nice. I really appreciate it, because I was so nervous going to that show. I was so nervous.
I mean, I was always a nervous public speaker, which is what got me onto the stage. But I love those nerves, because when you go on and you just completely calm, those nerves just keep you on point. You know, they make sure you're doing what you should be doing. So yeah, I love nerves, and like you said, it makes you a better showman, I believe.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So yeah, the Heartland Hypnosis Conference, just going back to it, you know, is that happening this year? Where's that at with COVID?
If you'll go to that website the URL you put here, heartlandhypnosis.com, heartlandhypnosisconference.com. This year we're going to do a hybrid. You can watch it virtually, so like your many listeners in the UK, and we'll have a few UK speakers too, Sheila Granger, for example. So and we'll have some Australians and Canadians, and but they'll be doing it virtually this year because the travel restrictions are still on. The travel restrictions. But it's the last weekend in April. But we will have, for those people in the United States, if they're willing to come and wear their masks, we are going to do kind of a socially distanced thing at the conference too. They're welcome to come, and it'll be in St. Louis, Missouri, which is where it is every year. St. Louis is right in the middle of the country, and so we call it Heartland. That's where the name came from. It's right in the middle. And it's a small conference. We run 200, 250 people. It's not a big conference, but it became international within 2 years. Our first international guest was the Australian Helen Midas. Nice. And I remember getting her response, and she says, "Oh, I want to come." And I'm thinking, does she realize this is in the United States of America? She's going to come from Australia, but everybody loved her, and she's been back many, many times. And we wound up getting some New Zealand people and some Brits, and and then Jeff Bennett is from he's from the Netherlands. So we say, if you can speak English, we'd love to meet you.
Brilliant. So yeah, I got a couple of comments here. Alana Jennings was saying, would I do a college show in America, but maybe they wouldn't understand my Manchester-isms?
That would definitely be an issue, especially at the state fair. Yes. We had a Russian woman this year, and she did very well. Of course, she spoke English, but she definitely, you can tell she's from Russia. I mean, let's put it that way. And it was really funny. She thought to be a stage hypnotist, you had to speak in a big, deep voice like that, So she sounded like Count Chocula. And we had to have a talk with her after her first show, saying, "You are so talented. You had so many great things, but we've got to find a different voice for you, because that voice is not going to work, because they're going to be laughing at you and not at the show."
Yes, fantastic. Again, I always ask a couple of questions as well. If you were to give yourself the younger you a tip, a golden nugget of information that you think has really helped you become the hypnotist that you are, what would that tip be?
Well, real quick, I have fantasized many times. I wish I'd have known about hypnosis 20 years earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I wish I'd known that 20 years earlier. But as a young hypnotist, I bought into all those myths that we in stage hypnosis know are not true. I thought the room had to be totally silent, really dark, and really whisper tones and all that stuff. And actually, that's how I met that stage hypnotist. I was doing a large group seminar for weight loss in a big hotel, and on the other side of the false wall, there was all this noise. So before we got ready to do the hypnosis, I went over to complain, and this gentleman's wife intercepted me at the door, and there were 200 women bankers just falling out of their chairs, crying, laughing. He was doing this great show, and it was all clean. And she said, I told her what I was doing, and she goes, "Oh, we'll be done in just a few minutes. He's almost done." And she goes, "Oh, you do hypnosis? Do you do stage hypnosis too?" And I said, "No, I do clinical hypnosis, And I said, by the way, kind of in an arrogant, elitist way, said I always heard they didn't make that much money anyway. And she goes, "Well, here's how much they're paying us." And I went, "May I get your card?"
Yeah.
And I called him the next day. And of course, he didn't want to train me. I had to talk him into it.
Yeah. So yeah, Alana says, whatever your energy is, please squish it into a pill and send me some, please. Natasha says, he's Bill. I've really enjoyed this week. Definitely up there with one of our favorites. Also,
Hey, let me say for Natasha. Natasha, my second daughter's middle name is Natasha.
Ah,
So that's a lovely, lovely name. I love that name.
bless her. If you were to recommend two books, any two books, whether they be personal development for stage hypnosis or two books that have had a massive impact on your life, what would those two books be?
Well, the big book in hypnosis that had a big influence on me is the Handbook of Hypnotic Phenomena in Psychotherapy.
Oh,
Every chapter is its own. It's like, for example, there's a whole chapter on hypnotic amnesia and all the research, all the applications, all the indications and contraindications, as well as selected transcript material at the end. So you have post-hypnotic, the page 78 on post-hypnotic suggestion, that one page is worth the price of the book.
brilliant. And what's that book called again? Handbook?
The Handbook of Hypnotic Phenomena in Psychotherapy. Matter of fact, I had it out, but I've moved it. It's in the other room, but I had it out. I'm doing some teaching this week, and but every hypnotic phenomenon, even if you're never going to do psychotherapy, it explains all the dynamics, all the research, and it quotes the research. I mean, there's always people saying there's no research about hypnosis. Like, what planet are you from? There's tons of research about hypnosis.
Yeah.
You just aren't looking in the right places, you know.
Yeah.
And so all the research is cited, you know. Now it's getting a little dated now. It was written in the mid 90s, so it's getting a little dated. But all the great work done at Stanford by Weizenhofer and Hilgard, all that stuff is covered. I mean, all that, you know, and you know, like, for example, how long will a post-hypnotic suggestion last? Well, that has been researched. There have been tons of research studies done on that.
I shall make sure there's a link to that book in the into the description as well later on.
Yeah, and it's by John Edit, who's a friend of mine. He's a psychologist, and John speaks at Heartland Hypnosis Conference, by the way.
Oh, brilliant.
Yes, yeah. We are the only conference in the United States that does hypnosis conference that offers mental health continuing education units.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, I'm a certified trainer and I can offer those. So
Brilliant.
yeah, so and not just me, but I get John Edgett. Well, of course, when he teaches, he's a PsyD psychologist. He can, you know, so we get all these mental health people coming in, and then they wind up going, oh, stage hypnosis isn't so bad.
Yeah. And it's a great way of spreading the positivities of stage hypnosis to the medical and professional communities as such. Second book.
Well, of course, everyone likes Dr. Michael Yapko's trance work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in its 5th edition now. That's certainly a great book. As far as stage hypnosis, I'm not sure which, you know, I learned in an odd way. That gentleman I told you about that got his card, he just had me follow him around for a while, and he'd kind of teach as he went, and I'd kind of help him out. And then he arranged for me to do a little setup show because he was a high school teacher, and I hypnotized some high school kids, and then he just started sending me out to these really small towns nobody's ever heard of. And they liked me. And to be honest, my very first show, I got clients out of it.
Yeah.
Because they like this, the school principal's son was a baseball pitcher, and he wanted me to hypnotize him to, you know, help him improve his focus. See, and so they can tell if you're trained and you do the show, they can tell.
Yeah,
they can tell. You don't have to promote all your degrees and all that stuff. I just say, you know. But here's one thing I think your audience might find interesting. They might find it controversial, but I really think there's 2 scientific proofs hypnosis is real. One is pain control.
Yes.
If I put out my hand, where's the camera here? If I put out my hand and I tell you to make your hand numb, you can't do it. But even in the lightest stage of hypnosis, you can.
Yeah.
So pain control. The second is post-hypnotic suggestion. Out of the hundreds of psychotherapies out there today, only hypnotherapy can produce a suggestion that's given in a session that a day later, a week later, a month later, a year later, when the right trigger occurs, without conscious effort, returns.
Yeah.
And that is, all these people say, I don't believe in hypnosis, say, well, let me just show you a post-hypnotic suggestion.
Alana Jennings says, please say the Bible. I think that was in reference to the second favorite book.
Well, if I thought about making that plug, but I think I assumed everyone knew that was true.
Yes, absolutely.
Here's what I get a kick out of, Grant. People who try to tell me hypnosis is of the devil. And I always want to say to them, I spent over 8 years of formal education studying the Bible in higher education. And you think it didn't occur to me, go, I wonder if Jesus would approve? that question never occurred to me.
Yeah, I suppose you're probably more qualified on that topic than most others out there, really. Absolutely. Brilliant. William, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for your time and coming on the show as well. Guys, please do check out sorry, because whenever I put the books up, there's always an Amazon affiliate. So Lance just asking if the Bible has an Amazon affiliates account.
Well, to my knowledge, the Bible is still the most widely published and widely read book in history.
Yes, absolutely.
It certainly is. And by the way, trance is in the Bible, and I can read the Greek. If you go to Acts chapter 10, when Peter has this vision, and God reveals to him it's okay to eat all the foods. You don't have to be kosher. You can eat all the foods. The word is, in Greek, it's literally translated trance. And in the most English translations, the word is trance. Acts chapter 10. It's all about Peter. And the word is used twice in that chapter, the same word. In the original Greek, it sounds like trance, but I read it better than I speak it. I'm not going to try and pronounce it. So.
Brilliant. William, thank you very much for your time and coming on the show as well. I'll make sure those links go in the description as well to your websites. Good luck with the conference and everything that you've got going on as well. And from everybody, thank you very much for taking part in tonight's show.
Well, it's my pleasure to make a new friend.
Oh, fantastic. Hopefully we'll meet face to face for real at some point soon.
You now officially have, and everybody's my witness, an invitation to next year's Heartland Hypnosis Conference to present.
Fantastic. Well,
and if you come and we don't tell the authorities, I'll get you a show.
Brilliant. Well, that is a done deal. Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much.